My name is Dave Selby, and this is my informative speech on the stand-up pouch. Now, right now, you're probably asking yourself, what is a stand-up pouch? How is it going to affect me? And why is this important to industry? Well, luckily, I'm going to go over all three of those things and how it's actually going to completely change our consumer life and also industry's life. What defines a stand-up pouch? A stand-up pouch is pretty simple. I have this example, which is an organic oats bag, which is a perfect stand-up pouch. Now, what defines it is these two things. These side seals right here on the side, and this flat bottom. This flat bottom is called a gusset. And this is what gives the property of the stand-up pouch, because it perfectly sits up in my hand or on the shelf. And that's what marketing and industry is looking for, is something to easily put on a shelf, but yet catches the eye. Now, the important thing, though, is the not revolutionary, but the big game changer for the stand-up pouch is the resealable opening that opens and closes for whenever you like, and that's a big game changer, especially with consumers. Consumers like that kind of versatility. So industry has really opened their eyes towards stand-up pouch recently in the last 10 years. Now, for stand-up pouches, there are 4 layers. The innermost layer is a food contact layer. And this layer is specifically made to be in contact with food or the product at all times. Therefore, it won't leach or contaminate the product at all, and it protects it from the other layers. The second innermost layer is an abrasion layer. It's a much tougher layer, usually plastic, and it's very tough. So if you drop it or some tries to puncture it, most of the time it won't crack, burst, or let any contaminants on the inside. The third outermost layer is the protection layer, and this is the aluminum foil layer. It's very tough. It blocks out the light, the water humidity or vapor, and it protects it from bacteria or viruses, and it's a big protection layer. The outermost layer is usually a very thin plastic that also helps protect, but it's not very crucial. However, the crucial part of this layer is the logo, the marketing, because companies want to put their logos and their product descriptions. So it's a very printable layer, and that's very important, especially when you can put something on the shelf, as my example. Now, my first source is Mark Junker, who worked for the Packaging Magazine, and he had an article called ConAgra Future Innovation. And in his article, he talked about how the packaging pouch is going to be the big transition, just like the glass to metal transition back in the 70s, 80s. Now, most of us aren't old enough, especially me. I am not old enough to remember or let alone live that transition. But my parents tell me, and other older people tell me, that everything was made in glass. Every product was usually had a glass package of some sort, and all the food, all your drinks were glass, which was good because glass usually blocked out all the contaminants, and it was relatively efficient to use. However, glass is really heavy, and glass was also very energy intensive to make. That's why I transitioned to metal in the 80s. And metal really took over with plastic as well, and it really changed everything. Well, Mark Junker believes that the packaging pouch is this new transition, just as big as back in that day, to where it's going now from metal to thin plastic and pouches. For the exact same reasons, because it is lighter and because it's easier and more efficient to create and also cook in, especially for the food industry. My second source is Brenda Neal, and she works for foodstuffsa.co, and she made an article called Faith in Packaging Pouch, and it's about Campbell and Heinz and their transition to the pouch. She mainly focuses on Heinz, and Heinz is thinking about transitioning all of their ketchup to pouches instead of rigid packaging, the squeezable bottles that we always use. They want to do pouches because usually a family buys one of their ketchup containers and uses it over about a month or even longer because it's such a large quantity of ketchup, and unless you have a big family, there's not that many sizes much smaller. Therefore, they want to make pouches with much smaller sizes for people that are usually bachelors, bachelorettes, and or only 2-person households. so you could use them faster and more efficiently without them sitting in the fridge for months at a time. My third source is Emily York, and she did an article for the Chicago Tribune called Going to the Pouch. And she mainly focused on the Campbell side transition and their cost savings. Now, Campbell is thinking about going from their metal soup cans to pouches. So if you think about that, that is a huge deal, because Campbell's usually creates about 2 billion cans annually, which is a huge amount of metal. And they now want to go to pouches for two reasons: because of transportation and weight, and also because of cook time. The transportation side is because pouches are so much lighter, they're 95% less in weight, they will save millions of dollars in fuel, in 18-wheelers and shipping containers. Because weight affects the 18-wheelers, it slows them down more, so they have to use more gas, and etc. So the pouch could really save them a lot of money. Also, the other big thing is cooking. Pouches, because they're so much thinner but yet protect just as well as metal, they cook much faster and much more efficiently without burning or ruining the product on the outermost edge. The most recent company that's come into contact with that is StarKist Tuna. They have recently come out with packaged tuna in pouches, and it is much fresher and much better than the metal cans, from what they have been saying, to even the point where their own consumers thought that they were making tuna differently in the pouch than in the can, when what really was going on was that because the pouch is so thinner and the heat cooks it more evenly, it comes out much better than the can. And so that's a big effect that affected StarKist a lot. So the next big thing is their growth on the packaging pouch. Since 1998, the packaging pouch has grown to an $8.8 billion industry, and is supposed to grow 7.5% annually every year. That's about $1 billion annually a year. So this is a big deal. I hope you learned a lot, and watch out for the packaging pouch in the future. Thank you.